he has like his stereo. He has like a bunch of stereo buses with like different kinds of compressors, I think, and he works with them in parallel and kind of.
Oh yeah, no, that sounds like kind of what I do. I should look into this more.
I think he's
that's kind of what I do because they do give you different tones.
Right. He's got like a few different compressors doing different things in parallel, and he kind of all sends them to the stereo bus, I guess, together. Probably should look up more about this because I learned about it a while ago and I forgot about it. And there's lots of ways to skin the cat. You know what I mean? You could just have like you could just have like that parallel bus next to the stereo out, and then go back out to the master or whatever kind of thing. Lots of ways to do it.
But yeah, and then a lot of automation with like with other parameters of delays and reverbs and things like that. I'll do a lot of like very, very detailed automation of like just one word having a tiny bit more reverb and things like that.
You're like into the details. I feel like there are mixers that are like, getting like as quick as possible to like a rough mix, and then that's most of it. It sounds like you're like every single moment has its like detailed automation move kind of
I think
signature thing.
I think so. I don't know if you ever get I think sometimes if I listen to a song too much as well, I always start off and I'm like, oh, I absolutely love this song. But then the more I listen to it, it's almost like you get a little bit bored of it, so something else has to change. So I think it's kind of a little bit like that as well, where I'll go in and I'll re-listen, I'll be like, well, I haven't noticed this about this stem, so this actually needs to come out, or this needs to change a bit more. And I think that's where I get into the detail from just listening to it over and over again, and then seeing what else I can bring out to make it a tiny bit more exciting. That's probably the way I work.
Yeah, because you're just looping that mix for however many...
Very long time,
and then you realize...
Much to the dismay of my housemate.
Yeah.
She gets songs in her heads all the time.
Yeah, totally. It's a dangerous occupation to live with, a music producer.
Yeah.
Yeah, my wife definitely sometimes is like, can you shut your door already? I've heard this enough.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Anything else in the mixing process that, I don't know, maybe the listeners want to know about? Anything that you think might be, I don't know, just interesting, something that you like to do?
Generally, probably similarly to a lot of mix engineers, generally I'll put some sort of tape emulation, or I've got a Revox tape machine, or I'll put that over the mix bus at the end, because I do love tape. Along with everybody, but it's definitely a staple in my mixing is tape emulations.
Yeah, I feel like saturation has become the thing that everybody's talking about now in terms of like getting a mix to really feel full.
Yeah, definitely. And I like listening to the different sort of tape machines that you can get, usually on plugins and emulations, but in general as well. And so I've just got the tape plugin from Arturia, which is the tape emulation from the Mellotron. And like messing around with all of those different parameters. That's definitely much more of a like creative one rather than just like nicely saturate your mix bus. But I've gotten really, really into that recently, and I've started putting it on everything.
Have you checked out Sketch Cassette?
No, I don't think so.
It's a cool like cassette tape emulator. It sounds really dope on drums if you use like the right parameters.
That one down. Sketch Cassette.
You'll find no problem. No problem. Do you ever get to use any of the I guess outboard gear at Strongroom when you're mixing, or is it kind of all in the box by the time you're mixing
sadly,
your records?
It's mostly in the box. I think I used to, when I was sort of learning a lot more and doing a lot of downtime to try and get my skills up, I'd try and do a lot of outboard mixing or desk mixing. But I found, even with my mixing now in the box, I found like committing to the sound difficult. So... And also just sort of being in different rooms, like taking your mixes around different rooms and like suddenly hearing it in another space and being like, oh, well, that mix didn't sound the same as in Studio 1 as it does in Studio 3. And so finding that commitment quite hard, because I hadn't sort of trained my ears well enough to really, really know the space in the room and how I mix as well. I think everybody's got their own style, and I've kind of got to know my own mixing quite well. Whether I like it or not, I'm like, oh, I've definitely got a particular style in some ways. So yeah, mostly it's in the box right now. But I think I'd like to use more outboard gear. I tend to find with any sort of emulation outboard gear, I use a lot of the stuff that we have at Strongroom because I've known how it works. So like CL1Bs and stuff, for example, we've got one at Strongroom, and I've rinsed that quite a lot on all of my mixes.
And you find the emulations are close enough to get you where you need to go? Generally.
But I would like, generally.
Generally speaking.
I use my tape machine here a fair bit. But yeah, I think I'll go back and use some more outboard gear at Strongroom. Now we've spoken about it, it's made me realise.
No pressure. I mean, from what I understand, like, it's just not worth the recall headache. Like, I don't know how many recalls you get, but I do a lot of revisions.
Yeah, I do as well. I think I wouldn't want to do a full desk mix. I don't think I'll ever probably get to the stage where I'll do a full desk mix, but I would like to sort of even just have like stereo outs and run stems of mine through outboard gear. I think that's probably what I'd like to get into more.
Yeah, or getting like committing to, some sort of, outboard compression or something and print it back in, and then you work it off.
Yeah, exactly.
And then that's committed to, and then you take it from there. Kind of
we've
thing.
got some real plates at Strongroom as well. Just even putting something to
that's
the plate.
fun.
That would be nice.
Yeah, that sounds worthwhile.
Yeah.
Yeah, the reverb. But listen, there's amazing reverbs in the box. Like, I feel like nobody's. You're not really lacking in the box anymore. It's just about how many steps it takes to kind of get to the thing you're going for, and it's probably faster often out of the box. From what I'm understanding.
Yeah.
Like I spoke with recently had a conversation with a guy named Daniel Silberman out of Chicago, and he was telling me like, it's like, yeah, it's faster out of the box, but I can recall it instantly on my computer, and so I just need to do a few more things to make it kind of that. I need the randomness, so I'm using like the Plugin Alliance kind of like console emulation where every single one on every track is a little bit different, and like all these like little steps to kind of get to the gestalt of having a kind of analog-y, saturated kind of sound.
Definitely. I've just got the Cream. Is it Cream 2? Do you know that plugin?
No.
Is it? I think it's Acoustica. It's emulating a desk from Abbey Road that the Beatles recorded on, but they don't specify what desk, but I'm guessing it's one of the old ones. And they have every single mic input on it, so you can choose like mic input 1 to 16, and it has a very, very slightly different character depending which one you put it through, and you can put it on every single channel that you've got it on. I've just got that literally last week, and I tried it on all of my drums recently, and then just put it on the first plugin
insert
of every channel strip, and then I like bypassed it all, and I was like, damn, it does actually make quite a big difference, because it sort of glues it all together quite a lot.
Yeah, it's crazy when that's the thing about saturation, is that it's like when you like, it's subtle until you take it off, and it's like almost like people talk about like the bass, you know what I mean? Like you don't realize that there's the bass is there until you take it away, and you realize how much thinner the music sounds.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like I've been mixing into this what's the black box, the HG2 I think it's called. It's just like a saturator, and it's on my stereo bus now, and I got hip to that from a guy named Matt Snell who was on the show.
Nice.
And it's just like, you take it off, it's like, the mix just falls apart, like all the richness just kind of like washes away, like it's like those subtle things that slowly add up is kind of what I'm learning, the pursuit of getting better at mixing. Yeah. So do you have any things that help you stay fresh and creative? Like not every day we're as pumped to get into the studio as the day before. How do you kind of stay in the zone and happy to work?
I really like working with new people, whether it's on one project and you bring in a new person. I think generally I learn something from every new musician that comes in, or every new producer that I'm engineering for. So working with new people, and I think as well, I'm quite lucky to, like at Strongroom, we've got quite a lot of support from the other engineers there. So my friend Jess, who we came up together as runners, we do a lot of sending each other our mixes, and she'll give me either like a new idea, or she'll tell me something in the mix that she finds wrong with it, or she'll be like, I'm really excited about this. What are you using for that? And I'll do the same with her. And so we learn a lot. We're very, very supportive of each other, I think. And same with some of the other engineers and producers and assistants there. So yeah, generally talking to a lot of other people. Very recently, I found myself in a bit of a rut with mixing. I think I started mixing a new song, and I just started doing the same sort of stuff that I've seen myself do on other mixes a million times. And I was like, it's sounding good, but I'm just a bit bored with the way that I'm mixing. Right. So I did the typical things and bought plugins, I think. I just bought new plugins, and I was like, try some new techniques. So that was when I got Cream 2, and that was exciting. And that Mellotron tape emulator, I've got that as well. So that definitely keeps me fresh too. Yeah. And then also just listening to new music all the time and being like, how can you create that effect?
Was there a record that you listened to recently that like, I don't know, blew your mind that you, I don't know, maybe want to share on the air that like help inspire you to kind of find a new trick?
I've been listening lots to the Little Dragon and Moses Summoning tune, The Other Lover, Another Lover. And I love what they do with the vocals and that. And I've been trying to copy some of that stuff. So yeah, that's one of my favourite tunes at the moment. Coco Rocco dropped a new tune yesterday, I think. And they do something mad with the vocals. I only heard it once, but I was listening and I was like, damn, I need to go back and re-listen to this. Because they do this like slap back, really, really distorted vocals with like slap back tape stuff, but they do it in a very like spacious way. And so I've only heard that once, but I'm going to go back and like have a little study of how they've done that.
Yeah. There was like a Wolfpack vocal that I that just sounded so good, and I couldn't quite figure out how they did it. I still haven't figured it out. I don't know if you listen to Wolfpack, but it was also like a tape.
I do a bit. I've got that Wolf compressor.
Oh
as well.
yeah. That thing is dope.
Yeah.
And they're anyways, I still haven't figured it out, but it was like a tape delay kind of thing, slap thing that just worked
funny,
so
isn't
well.
It is frustrating sometimes when I hear something really, really good and I try and emulate it and I can't, and that's frustrating. So I'll keep on trying, and sometimes I make it, but sometimes it's still a mystery to me.
Just need to remember to keep at it, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. I guess sometimes it's quite nice just left as a mystery as well, isn't it?
But for engineers, it's difficult.
There's so much that like engineering not ruins, but like being an engineer, you listen to music so differently and you're always analysing it. So if there's something that is left a mystery, I quite like it now. I'm like, respect that.
Respect the artist and the engineer that did it. Yeah, I actually did notice that in your mixes, your low end is always like super, I don't know, bopping. Do you have an approach to low end, getting the bass and the kick right? Like everything sounded really full. And
I've gotten a lot into side chaining in the last year. So I'd do a lot of side chaining, kick to the bass, and not just kick, like just a lot of side chaining. Yeah, if it's particularly in low end, it'll probably be kick to the bass or any sort of like bass instrument, anything that's quite mushy. And again, kind of what we talked about, a lot of saturation and a lot of parallel work, I guess, a lot of parallel compression, and a lot of experimenting, a lot of like notching out any muddiness, trying to make stuff quite tight, I guess, in the bass end. So I'll probably will EQ quite a lot as the first thing that I do with any sort of bass instrument, to make it fit around the rest of the mix. And then I'll start side chaining and doing parallel compression and little bits of distortion. And I don't often layer. I used to lean on sample replacement a lot more, but recently I've started just trying to get the best out of whatever sound I've got.
I had an interesting chat with somebody named Evan Morgan on the show, and he was saying that like when you're using a lot of bass, like kick samples, for example, you can actually start to lose the low end because they can often be out of phase with one another. You know, once you have three like kick samples interplaying, it's so hard to get the phase right, and then you kind of lose your low end. You know, the clarity of the low end. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, definitely. I'll do quite a lot of phase stuff as well, actually. If there's anything I've recorded, I don't use. There's that plugin, isn't there, where you can snap all of you. Yeah, I don't use that, but I will check at least my kick with each other with the other kick mics and with the overheads maybe as well if it's not super punchy. And even just like kick in and kick out, shifting them to make sure that they're perfectly in phase.
Yeah,
definitely helps it being quite punchy. There's only like a few samples a lot of the time, but I'm like. It makes such a huge difference. Yeah, it does make a big difference. I've been a manual nudger of late. I've kind of gotten into it of just like seeing what hit, how is it going to hit best, and if I move it like I don't know a couple samples to the left or the right, it can make a big difference. And in terms of like side chaining, I don't know. Do you have like a preferred attack and release for side chain compression? Because I feel like that's something that like I'll experiment, but I don't know. Maybe you have something more dialed in. I've experimented a bit more with it recently. Generally, I'll have a quick release and then I'll just play around with the attack to see what feels right for the song. It's about the rhythmic interplay there, and right? The sort of how like thick the sounds are in themselves, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Like if they're two quite rich things, maybe I'll have like a faster attack to make sure it really pushes through. But if it's a little bit more boppier or like a bit thinner, then I'll have a slower attack and I don't know. I'll just experiment quite a lot, I think.
Yeah, it's just trial and error. Have you tried?